Imagine for a second a machine that can literally see in the dark, a machine that can track hundreds of targets simultaneously and deliver devastating precision strikes from miles away, all while hovering just barely above the treetops. Well, welcome to this explainer. Today we are taking a documentary-grade deep dive into an absolute marvel of modern military engineering, Boeing's AH-64E Apache Guardian.
Okay, let's dive into this. When you hear a phrase like apex predator, you're probably thinking of the animal kingdom, right? A lion or a great white shark. But in the theater of modern aerial combat, that title belongs right here. Designed and manufactured in the USA, the Apache Guardian is widely considered the most lethal, unmatched attack helicopter on the planet. I mean, this isn't just an aircraft, it's a flying supercomputer that is armed to the teeth.
Here's our roadmap for the next few minutes. We'll start with number 1, its evolution. Then hit the anatomy and specs. Explore its brain and senses. Unpack the arsenal. Review its global battlefield performance, and wrap up with costs and future modernization.
Let's start with Section 1, Evolution of the Predator. To really understand how we got to this cutting-edge E variant, we kind of have to look back to the 1970s. It was born out of a U.S. Army requirement for an advanced attack helicopter, and that first AH-64A officially rolled out in the 1980s. But, warfare evolves, and the Apache had to evolve right along with it. The modern AH-64E Guardian isn't just getting a fresh coat of paint. It is a fundamental redesign by Boeing to ensure this aircraft stays totally dominant in our highly digitized 21st century battle space.
Moving on to Section 2, Anatomy and Specs. Let's look at the raw physical data.
Let's peel back the armor for a second. The Guardian is powered by 2 upgraded General Electric turboshaft engines, and each one is pumping out roughly 2,000 shaft horsepower. To put that into perspective, you're essentially looking at the combined power of multiple modern supercars all working together to drive a single rotor. It's incredible. We're talking about a machine with a maximum gross weight of over 22,000 pounds being hurled through the sky by sheer brute force. Honestly, just the engineering required to keep that kind of weight stabilized in the air is completely staggering.
And let me tell you, it uses that horsepower incredibly effectively. We are looking at a maximum speed of around 170 knots. That's just shy of 200 miles per hour. For a heavily armored flying tank, that kind of agility is almost hard to believe. And you couple that speed with a service ceiling of 20,000 feet, which basically means the Apache can maneuver its incredibly heavy frame high into the thin mountain air or scream right across the desert floor with equal dominance.
But how far can it actually project that power? Well, the Guardian has a typical combat radius of about 300 miles. However, when you outfit it with external fuel tanks, what's known as its ferry range, it pushes way out to nearly 1,180 miles. This right here is a vital strategic advantage. It allows military planners to self-deploy these helicopters across vast continents without needing them to be shipped before stripping them back down for close-quarters combat.
Let's shift gears to Section 3, the brain and senses, because this is where the real magic happens.
Raw physical power is absolutely nothing without control, and the Apache's true strength lies in its nervous system. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the stark contrast in technology between the generations. You see, older variants relied pretty heavily on analog line-of-sight engagement, but the AH-64E, it uses the modernized Mongbo fire control radar. It's that iconic, sort of mushroom-shaped dome sitting right above the main rotor. That dome allows the Guardian to literally hide behind a line of trees, peek just the radar over the top, classify over 100 targets, prioritize the biggest threats, and share that targeting data with other allied units in a matter of seconds. All of this happens without ever exposing the helicopter itself. It is a massive, massive tactical leap.
Which brings us to Section 4, the arsenal. Time to look at the weapon systems.
Let's talk about the claws of this predator. The payload of the AH-64E is famously devastating, and it breaks down into 4 distinct categories. You've got your AGM-114 Hellfire missiles, your 70mm Hydra rockets, the infamous 30mm chain gun that's mounted right under the chin, and finally, air-to-air missiles like the Stinger, basically there to watch its own back.
But it's exactly how these weapons are applied that makes the Apache so lethal in a fight. Hellfires are your precision anti-armor tools. They're designed specifically to crack open heavy main battle tanks from miles away. Then you have your Hydra rockets, which provide excellent area suppression against enemy positions. But honestly, the real standout here is that 30mm chain gun. It carries up to 1,200 rounds, and get this, it literally tracks with the pilot's eye movements. Wherever the pilot looks, the gun points. It's the ultimate close infantry support tool. It really is just a perfectly balanced, utterly terrifying toolkit.
Next up, Section 5, Global Battlefield Performance.
Now, this aircraft isn't just some theoretical marvel sitting on a blueprint. It has a vast, real-world resume. It has been deployed by numerous countries in major conflicts, from Desert Storm to modern operations all over the globe. But let's drop the hype for a second and look at the reality impartially. Its strengths are totally undeniable: overwhelming firepower and absolute night-fighting supremacy. However, it's also a highly complex machine. That means the maintenance hours required per flight hour are incredibly high. And while it is heavily armored, critical mechanical components, like the tail rotor, remain genuinely vulnerable to concentrated ground fire. So it is incredibly formidable, for sure, but it's not invincible.
When we step back and compare the AH-64E to other attack helicopters currently in the global theater, things like Russia's K-52 or Europe's Eurocopter Tiger, the Apache's strategic advantage repeatedly comes back to that sensory integration we talked about. While other helicopters out there might technically be faster or slightly more maneuverable, the Guardian's ability to network with drones, share targeting data instantly, and strike before it's even been seen, that's what keeps it at the very top of the global food chain.
So, the crucial point is, how do we sustain this going forward? Let's look at Section 6, Cost and Future Modernization.
What does military dominance like this actually cost? Well, the financial investment here is just staggering. You are looking at an estimated unit cost of anywhere from $30 to over $40 million per single helicopter, and that depends heavily on the specific configuration and foreign military sales agreements. When you factor in the decades of research, development, and the massive ongoing maintenance required, the total program cost pushes well into the tens of billions. That is a massive, very real economic reality for any nation's defense budget.
To protect that massive investment, Boeing and the military have some pretty aggressive future modernization plans lined up. They definitely aren't resting on their laurels here. The big focus right now is on what they call manned-unmanned teaming, or MUMT. This is fascinating tech. It allows Apache pilots to directly control drones right from the cockpit, sending them ahead into highly dangerous airspace to scout or even strike targets. They're also actively looking at major engine upgrades, improved digital data links, and, incredibly, even integrating directed energy weapons, like lasers, down the road.
And all of this brilliantly illustrates the ultimate question we really have to ask today. As we see modern battlefields becoming entirely saturated with cheap, expendable, and highly effective autonomous drones, what is the lasting legacy of a $40 million manned attack helicopter? The AH-64E Guardian is undeniably the apex predator of the skies right now. But as the face of automated war changes at breakneck speed, will this incredible machine remain the hunter, or will it eventually become a relic of a bygone era? Think about that for a while. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep learning.